Welcome to Business Talk Sister Gawk. I'm Becca, and today's podcast episode topic is how to start a murder mystery company. And with me today, I have Jason from Guilty Party Mysteries. And thank you so much for being with me today.
Yeah, no, seriously, I'm so excited to be here. Not sure how much advice I have. We're a pretty new company, but I'm hoping that for listeners out there that I can help.
Yeah, and it's always you are one step further than the next person. So that's a good place to be. So tell me a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so our company, we're a murder mystery company. And what a murder mystery is, written word. And you're essentially playing out a character. And I don't want to use the word acting because people get stressed out with the word acting. But you play a character and there's structured 3 rounds of gameplay. And each round, the story progresses further and further until someone dies. And then at the end, you have to try and guess who the murderer was. It's really kind of a simplistic way of putting it. And we have a bunch of different ways that we can do that. We've done overnight events where it's spread out between 12 hours. We've done 3-hour events. We have a new one coming up in October. It's a 2-day event. It's at a lodge. And there's a lot of different activities, not just murder mystery. There's cornhole tournaments, there's pumpkin carving contests, and then a murder mystery kind of wiggled in there. So there, and we're starting to also incorporate escape room elements. So it's kind of learning as we go. Yeah, it's kind of all over the place.
Okay. So why did you decide to start doing what you do?
I've always had, for me, so it's me and my wife. My wife's name is Liz. For me, I've always had an affinity for working for myself. I've, not that there's anything wrong with working for somebody else. There's tons of people that love doing that. I'd always go into a new job super excited about it, then end up being like, gosh, I wish I could do something else. And once I found this and finally started a business, I've never been more content with my life. And so this is, for me, the business aspect, if you want to put a word to it or title, administrative. I like learning about Excel and I like doing all that. For my wife, she is an aspiring author. She's published a short story and she sticks to the horror genre or thriller, I guess maybe is probably the better way of that. And she's been throwing murder mysteries since, she was 22 and she's 34 now. And our wedding was a surprise wedding murder mystery. So like we had all our friends and family dressed up as characters, and they thought it was just going to be the what do you call this? The practice ceremony before a wedding. But so they were all there for the practice ceremony for the day before. But it ended up that was our wedding, and her dad walked her down the aisle in scuba gear. So it's just
wow.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that just kind of falls in your lap. Someone had come up to me after Liz threw a party for a bunch of friends of ours, and someone had came up to us and said, "How much do we have to pay you? How much would I have to pay you to do this for my family?" And like for me, as like wanting to start a business, that was just like a light bulb. I'm like, okay, let's look at this. So that's kind of the long story of how we kind of got into it.
Okay. Yeah. So let's get into the how you do what you do. Can you give me an overview of how like a murder mystery event works for those who may not have heard of it? Like when you have one, how do people know about it? All that kind of stuff.
Sure. So it starts, the starting point for us is to figure out storyline and how to write it and structure it. And then from there, we'll market it on our social medias, Facebook, Instagram. Liz is dabbling in TikTok. And depending, again, back to a little bit ago where I said that just different kind of lengths of events, depending on that event, it could be a 3-hour, could be an overnight, could be 2 days. And from there, they can go to our website and purchase a ticket, or if they want their own private party, they can contact us and we can set something up that way. And then the next step, once they purchase a ticket, we send out a customized personality questionnaire. So Liz really loves to make sure people are comfortable and a majority of our ticket sales are women, and the poor husbands and boyfriends get dragged along, and that's just not their thing. And so what she tries to do is make sure that everyone's comfortable with their character. And so that personality, you'll get a personality questionnaire, and she'll try and fit you with just the right character. And after that, you get costume ideas and suggestions and background before the event. And after that, once you arrive at the event, it's I think I stated earlier, it's for like a 3-hour event. It's 3 rounds of gameplay generally, and the story progresses pretty quickly as you get into the second and third round. So yeah, that's kind of like the general overview of it and how it works.
Okay. Yeah. So how did you come up with so many different themed mysteries? Are any of them based on real world events?
Good question. We kind of lean towards the thriller, horror kind of, and not even fantasy, but almost unbelievable storylines. Because if you think like 80s slashers, right? There's just kind of this.
Okay.
It's not, but it's not like it's not really that believable. It's kind of crazy, kind of silly. And so we kind of lean towards just these wild storylines where it's not like we like a lot for the ones that we write. We like a lot of kind of out there subjects. So the lodge that we're having in October, where the 2-day event is an 80s horror event. There's a murderer that is replicating his favorite movies. I think that's all I want to say on that, because I don't want to give any of that away.
Ooh.
But
Okay.
yeah, so it really kind of depends on the season. That probably is a better answer, and kind of where, because we want to tailor to the general mood of our customers, and especially the season. October, we're super busy, so those
Mm-hmm.
are pieces that we try to put in. And also, it's venue dependent. So we're finding that a lot of the overnights at bed and breakfast, we decided to write a ghost hunting paranormal investigation,
Mm.
because the 2 bed and breakfasts that we worked with are quote unquote, supposedly haunted. And so that was just, the ideas are very natural. They just kind of come to us.
Mm-hmm. So it's almost like the venue inspires the way that you lay it out.
Oh, for sure. I'm such a feeling based creative. Just for a tiny example, for like escape room pieces that I do for the story, I'll look at, I'll think of like a lock or a puzzle or something physical. And from there, I can create more of the backstory. For example, I'm looking at a rotary phone for a current one that we're building, and I'm looking at why this person has that rotary phone, and what he would use it for, and how does that advance the storyline, and that rotary phone, what does it bring to the puzzles, the physical puzzles. And I don't know, it's very natural for me. Liz is very, when she has a general overview of what she wants to write, she has being a writer, she has a structure of how she goes about character development and all that. But yeah, for the most part, it's natural. It just kind of happens organically.
Okay. Yeah. So have you found like anything in terms of like ideal party size for a murder mystery or number of guests participating, anything like that?
It's it's story dependent.
Okay.
If you go with the attention of, essentially, like, go back to the 3-hour event. 3-hour event, that kind of our best window is between 30 and 50, but active characters we've included detectives. So if you don't want to play a character, you don't have to. But like active characters, 50 is kind of really pushing it for us.
Right. Okay.
But for like the 2-day event lodge, we were looking at 60 people, I think, is the max. And we built the story to go beyond that. So it's really kind of story dependent, and what we want to do with it. We're very agile in developing those stories based on where we're going, and the audience that we're going to have there.
Okay. Yeah. So as you've been growing this business, what has been the best source of traffic for you to grow it further?
You mean from like a marketing perspective, or?
Yeah, is it more referral based, or how do people find out about you and how do you get connected?
Yeah, sure. That's funny you asked this question. We were just having this conversation the other day. The simple answer is word of mouth. The more
Okay.
dynamic answer to that is, we've never really, other than advertising for a specific event on social media, we've never like actively went after people. Not people. That sounds. We never really went after,
Mm-hmm.
the sale and like
Right.
retargeting and things like that. A lot of it has been word of
Very
mouth.
organic. Okay. Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking at switching, I'm looking at going full time into the business to be able to do that. But yeah, right now it's been very organic word of mouth.
Okay, yeah. So what are the pros and cons to working with an organization booking versus doing your own or having a private party booking? What have you found are like the highlights of each, and what are the parts where it gets a little difficult?
From a business owner perspective, working with other businesses has been probably the best resource, and not
Oh, okay.
and just learning about business, especially if you're new to it, and being open to that. That's, I mean, it's indirect relation to what, the question there, but I think that's really important. So for like a really positive side of working with venues is meeting these new people and looking at the world differently and business differently. And so I really enjoy that piece. Um, Liz, we've chatted about that too. We've chatted about this question too. She loves um, digging into the history of different venues, and the
Oh,
owners will
okay.
help with that, and they love that. It's a real tangible piece, and they're really proud of that. And so we want to make sure that our work reflects that. And so that's a really fun piece of all this. It's this collaboration between um, people, especially specifically the ones that we're looking at selling public tickets for. I think the hardest, kind of the difficult piece for us is finding personality match, right? And working with people who aren't, that all ultimate capitalists where nothing matters, right? This really matters to us. We want people to have an escape from the mundane and the boring, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a good place to go and be weird. And so the struggle is finding, not the struggle, but the thing that we really look for is specifically venue owners, is people who are willing and want that same experience that we're looking for.
Who are
um,
willing to have the suspension of disbelief almost.
yeah, no, for sure. and,
Yeah.
and they want to be a part of it. It's not just about the bottom line. That's really not what it's about for us. That'll come if we believe in that mission, right? That'll just come. But yeah, that's our biggest thing with venues. The hardest piece is finding the right people to work with.
Okay. Yeah. So what do you think is helpful for other people to know about doing an event company like this?
It's so funny. I didn't realize we were an event company until about 3 weeks ago. I know it doesn't make any sense, but yeah, when you break it down to just the basic of what we're doing, it is an event company. Specifically, you really have to be okay with not knowing everything, especially the day of the event.
Okay.
There's a lot of things that you can try and prepare for, and there's a lot of contingencies that you don't prepare for, and then they end up happening. And I had the best advice the other day was like, that it's going wrong, but the guests don't have to know. And that changes everything, right? As long as you're smiling and having a good time, they don't know what's going on. And that's okay in some sense, right? Depending on the severity of the situation. But, kind of being able to play on your feet and, being able to adjust
Hmm.
is probably one of the biggest assets to running a business like this, because you're dealing with so many different people at once. There's so many different variables. You just got to be able to um, be quick on your feet. And it honestly, it probably comes from us being paramedics, right?
Okay.
You're talking about most elevated situations that you could be in, that we have to control a scene. And that's something that's just inherent in us now. And it doesn't really bother us.
Yeah.
So
Well, and usually nobody's dying, so that's
yeah,
good.
right, exactly. So
It's
that
really
changes
not
the
that
whole
big of a deal.
dynamic. Right. Yeah. So it's not as stressful as being a paramedic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So if you were to do it over again, what would you do to make it go smoother when you first started?
Oh, good question. And this answer is for any and all businesses out there. Find yourself a tax accountant and talk
Okay.
about the plan, right?
Okay. Hmm.
Find yourself all the different, go and talk to a bank and be like, what's my steps? Right. Because we were like, we used our personal card to buy things and then set up the business bank account later. And there's some ways to do it for myself. I like structured. And so, looking back, I would have done A, B, C, D, and not do F, G, A, C, B, because then it's just cleaning up a mess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So what do you think makes a murder mystery memorable? Does it have to do with the participation of the attendees, or is there more you can do to help it along?
I think chemistry between the guests is super important. And it's back to variables. It's one that you can't account for.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to take that on your shoulders. And so you have to be the weirdest one out there. And
Okay.
by weird,
Yeah.
like it's okay. And we've had plenty of those where it was the first hour or two was a dud. And we're like, I'm nervous. And I'm like, this isn't going well. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I would say that.
Yeah, no, it kind of, and of any kind of event, I feel like the participants, what they put into it is what they're also going to get out of it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And one of the things we're looking at is like, and I know it's a ridiculous request, but putting cell phones away, taking that away
Mm-hmm.
and getting you into it, and I'm not gonna require it, but I think that that's such a huge distraction. And it's nice in events where, like, if Liz is running it, I'll watch, and I'm watching people and I'm watching how they interact and I'm taking notes and I'm seeing what we could do better. And I'm always trying to figure that out. And cell phones is always a big piece where people are always pulling away for cell phones, which is not, cell phones are a bad thing, right? But what we want people to do is let go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as you're going through the process of getting ready for an event like this, what do you do to stay organized? And are there any like tools or resources that you found helpful in that?
Yeah. Um, the first part of the question is stay organized. We use, I don't know if you've heard of Monday.com.
Okay, yeah, I have.
Yeah, they got a lot of excellent event planning templates that we've used and is very
Mm,
helpful for, Gantt charts and all that, and, pipeline workflow. And that's just, I'm a very visual person, so that's super helpful for me. And then on top of that, dabbling in Excel. There's so many things and so many features that you can use in Excel. Those are kind of my biggest tools, our biggest tools that we use. Your venues, honestly, you can say that about any business. There's so many people out there with so many different experiences and so many different things that they're good at. I don't like the word leverage, but it's the word that comes to mind, to leverage those people's skills. Leverage seems like it's transactional, but to have them help you essentially. And, they're out there. People love helping, and you want to build a community around whatever you're doing. I mean, there's people out there. So,
okay. Yeah. So how do you position yourself as a business, knowing that there aren't very many similar experiential businesses out there? Do you try to compare yourself to like escape rooms then, or are there other ways that you figure out your ideal pricing model for a party?
so this question specifically is related to pricing model.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Boy, that was a tough one. I
Why do you
think we're
think I'm
still,
asking the question?
yeah, no, that's a really tough one. So service businesses is weird. For anyone who hasn't really dove too much into it, it's really about time and your time and what you're willing to be paid for it. Yeah, sure, there's products and, decorations and things like that, but any service industry, there's a lot of time involved, or service.
Hmm.
And so that piece for us is constantly evolving, and we're constantly looking at it. At first we didn't worry about the time because realistically we were learning so many new things that, takes a
Hmm.
lot of time.
Hmm.
And we're just starting to like track time for how much time it takes to do pre-event communications and how much time does it take to decorate and things like that. But pricing model wise, for the first year for us, we're going to shoot for break even, right? And that's our
Mm-hmm.
goal. And then after that, now when we budget for an event, we essentially just do an income statement for each event because it's its own little business, right? And it sounds kind of weird there, but it is. We can get a snapshot of that business or that event as a business, and we shoot for a certain percent for net profit. And so that's how we do it. I mean, it's nothing crazy. And maybe it's probably not the right way, but right now that's how we're doing it.
Okay. Yeah. And then does that vary based on like the amount of participants that engage and stuff like that?
Yes, that's one of the biggest factors. You're trying to forecast based on max amount of ticket sales. And so that's kind of the hardest piece.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And do you ever have to factor in venue costs as well? Or is this more of an add-on service that you bring to people who are already having a venue?
We actually, so for example, I think the best way to answer this as an example. So bed and breakfast. So we'll just take over the room fee and our murder mystery fee on top of it to decrease the barriers of entry into the event. So they don't have to go and buy a murder mystery ticket and then go to the website of the
Mm-hmm.
bed and breakfast to buy or rent the room. So it's all bundled in one ticket, and
Got
then
it.
it just makes it easier for everybody. And then
Okay.
we end up paying, we cut a check to whatever venue it is at the end of the event.
Yeah, awesome. So I was going to ask you, do you do that as like an add-on service through like the experiential part of like, say, Airbnb or VRBO or anything like that?
Not yet. We're looking at that piece and what are the liabilities and if that would be allowed under Airbnb's rules. Some people are really strict about that. Like they have cameras all over the place. They see, you rent the room for 4, but there's 8 people there for a certain amount of time. They get kind of goofy about that, but definitely something we're looking into.
Okay, yeah. No, that's good to know. So how can people find you?
So we have a website. It is www.guiltypartymysteries.com. Facebook, Guilty Party Mysteries, and Instagram, same name.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yeah. And we're going to transition now into the gawk portion of this episode. And I've been to one of your murder mysteries before, just a 3-hour one, but I feel like that I got a lot out of it because I went with a few friends that I actually was in plays with when I was in high school. And so we were all really excited because we dressed up and everything. And yeah, I don't know if you noticed that, but anyways. And
Those are my favorite people.
yeah, my favorite part about the murder mystery was this this lady who got really into the death scene and just had this glorious, like blood curdling scream as she died. And like she was just there and then she was gone, like between the tables. And it was like to this day, like every time I see that lady, I'm like, oh yeah, she's got a really good scream. So I really wanted to like ask you, what are some of like the best death scenes you've seen as people kind of go down and play that part as the victim?
Yeah, and my go-to is our second event ever. So talk about like ultimate stress for us. We're like panicking the whole way through, and just everything just doesn't seem to be going right in our head. And when it
Mm-hmm.
comes time for the person to die, they go into the bathroom and get ready. And we're at Rapids Brewing at this point, and there's an upstairs balcony that overlooks the whole tap room, and it's open
Ah.
to the downstairs. And this victim came out and did exactly what you said. I mean, in downstairs in front of a packed tap room, blood curdling scream, "I've been murdered." And the live music stopped. And I'm like, this is awkward. It was fantastic. everyone stopped, and I'm like running over to the stairs to see what's going on, and she's at the bottom of the stairs laying there. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was wild. And honestly, it probably did really good for our next it was probably fantastic advertising for our next party after that, but it was unbelievable.
Wow. And like, was this also while they were having other just regular people in and out of the location as well?
Yes, it was packed.
Ah, that's amazing. So it really was like the reaction of people thinking someone was dying.
100%. And she knew all these people were down there. She didn't care. She's like, I'm doing this right here, right now.
Whoa.
I know, it was
That's
awesome.
like it was like a real life movie.
100%. It was so funny. But
Wow.
that's probably my favorite one.
I'm bummed that I missed that. That seems like an epic moment in history.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being with me today. I have really enjoyed our conversation. And if you have enjoyed this episode, you should give it a review on Spotify, and I will see you next week.